Maybe you've heard, The Rings of Power has premiered on Amazon Prime. And yes, I have seen it. My reaction? Well, let's just say, destroy it! Cast it into the fire. It might not be everyone's cup of tea or bowl of stew, but I've been thinking, and I have some thoughts. So let's dive right into it. Let's start at the beginning. In the introduction sequence in the first episode, we get a couple cool shots, like of Morgoth destroying the twin trees of Valinor. We also get this shot of the Dark Lord with some orcs, and also this shot of a Nazgul defeating an eagle, which I must say was difficult to watch. We also have this shot of an elf screaming and crying for his life. Let's compare that with Elrond from the Fellowship. Standing stoic and strong, Elrond shows no fear on the battlefield, calling out only orders as he leads the elves against the orcs at the steps of Mordor. In one of the most amazing cinematic sequences I've ever seen, we see Elendil engage in mortal combat against Sauron, the Dark Lord himself. We see Isildur, son of Elendil, take up his father's sword and strike the hand of Sauron. We see the destruction, the defeat of Sauron, the Dark Lord, as his body sends out a shockwave across the land. Now, Rings of Power only alludes to events that happen off-screen, things that I would like to see, such as the destruction of Valinor and the two trees. Instead, we get, what is the difference between a rock and a boat? I'm not kidding. Then we cut to Warrior Galadriel, strong woman, girl power, who does everything by herself and goes her own way. She treats her own company like trash, doesn't listen to anyone, and does whatever she wants. That's my biggest problem with this show. There's no fellowship. There is only Galadriel. And this is exemplified by the snow troll scene, where all of her company is completely helpless. They don't fight. We only see Galadriel run off a sword, single-handedly defeat the snow troll. Now, they are literally trolling us with this scene. This kind of Mary Sue character depiction goes against everything we loved about the Fellowship, where all the characters work together to accomplish the quest, and it's just kind of infuriating. It feels wrong to even begin to compare the Galadriel snow troll scene with the Balin's Tomb cave troll scene, but let's do it, shall we? We see all the characters teaming up, using all their different strengths, be it the hobbits, the elf, the dwarf, the men, the wizard, using their different set of skills and strengths to combat the cave troll, being brave, being selfless, sacrificing for their friends, for the greater good of all humanity, of the entire Middle Earth. We see action, we see some violence, we actually see some orcs getting killed, which again, I keep harping on this because we don't see this happen in the Rings of Power. For 4 episodes, we don't see a guy kill an orc. And that's another problem I have with this show, is the lack of action in orc slaying. It takes 4 episodes, 4 hours to see someone kill an orc when Arondir shoots some in the forest. We do see this guy, Adar, mercy kill an orc, and we see all the orcs crying about it, but I don't know how I feel about that. Another weird theme that keeps popping up in Rings of Power is the subtle Rossicism portrayed throughout the show. The forbidden romance between the elf and woman feels much more than that, since he's the only black guy we've seen in Middle Earth, and we have people saying we don't like your kind around here. It just feels very wrong, and I don't understand this portrayal of Arondir, like in chains and not allowed to date certain women. I understand it's the elf and human dynamic, but there's more to it going on. We know it, Amazon. You're beating us over the head with it, and it doesn't make sense to a modern audience. This is part of modernizing the show. I don't think so, and I don't like it. Another theme that is plaguing the Rings of Power show is the girl boss trope. Like Bronwyn here. Yeah, she got to kill an orc in the second episode, I think. We've got Galadriel killing snow trolls, and we've got the Harfoots controlling wizards. Oh yes, it's everywhere. This is the girl power, girl boss show from Galadriel and this Númenórean queen regent who honestly looks like she's just smelled a fart in every scene that she's in. Like, not trying to be rude, but that's just the vibes I get. Now let's shift our attention to the costumes and armor of this show. I call it the smocks of power. For the first 3 hours going into 4 hours of the show, the main characters are wearing smocks in pretty much every scene. Galadriel's costume is terrible. Her hair's terrible. Nothing remarkable about Bronwyn. I mean, there's no comparison to the real Lord of the Rings. Looking at her armor, her Valinor armor, it's super plain. It looks plastic. Comparing it to the Gondorian, any armor from Lord of the Rings, there's no comparison. This armor looks interesting, but we haven't seen it. We're halfway through the series. And yeah, Gil-galad looks cool, but he's not in the show very much. And he looked cooler in the Fellowship, let's be real. This show has received a lot of praise for how good it looks, and while no doubt lots of money has been put into the special effects, I don't think it's been very effective. The world feels fake. It feels like a green screen. Kind of like The Hobbit, where there was lots of green screen and less practical effects. That's what they've done here. And these worlds feel so fake. It feels so artificial. None of this feels real. It's too busy. My brain doesn't retain anything when I look at this. There's just too much going on. I know it's fake. None of it's practical. And so I just don't retain anything. I had to go back and look at these screenshots. Now, if you compare it to Edoras and Rohan from Two Towers, you see the city from several different angles and locations from the outside. As they ride in, you get a feel for what this town, what this city really looks like. And they actually built this place, so it feels real. When you compare it to this shot, I don't retain anything from this. It's too busy, it's too much. It's not working for me. Another unfortunate image from the Rings of Power is the warg and, yes, Galadriel on the horse. If you guys want to see a beautiful, strong elf on horseback, please watch The Fellowship of the Ring. Arwen's flight to the fjord is maybe my favorite scene in The Fellowship. It is incredible. It's exhilarating. That's how you do a slow motion horse scene. I suggest y'all go watch that. But credit where credit is due. At least this scene had some real animals. I'm not sure if it's COVID or what happened in the filming of this show. There are no animals, no livestock. Sure, the Harfoots are nomadic, but they don't have any animals. These are supposed to be hobbits. We don't see any tie, any callback. Even in this scene where they go to this watchtower, no livestock, no animals. This one shot earlier, okay, there's some sheep, I guess so. I didn't even notice these sheep in the show. It wasn't until looking through screenshots that I actually noticed that there was some livestock in this show. It's the little things, but it does bother me. We also meet Isildur, son of Elendil, in this show. And here we see Elendil on the right with Galadriel. I am looking forward to seeing how these clowns turn into these guys who take on Sauron in the most epic, awesome cinematic sequence I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm scared. But if they can pull this off, as a fan, I'd be so happy if they could somehow make these characters cool and pull this off. But until then, we're just kind of speculating about what could happen. I hope that as the evil of Sauron rises within this show, that this show will take a darker turn and we'll see these characters turn into the absolute badasses that they are at the beginning of the Fellowship. Maybe we'll see some Rings of Power in this show. That'd be cool. Who knows? Stay tuned. Thanks for watching, guys and gals and they, thems, and whatever you are.